Hey, what's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fans? This is JB right here, host of the Behind the Bench podcast network and channel. Just want to give a shout out to the rest of the crew. I'm talking about Shad, Kelvin, and Jermaine, who will be producing new content of their own very soon. And for everyone who's tuning in, I hope that you support Behind the Bench, become a subscriber, and help make this podcast the best that it can be. Now, check this out. Now, when it comes to the NBA, more often than not, we have these discussions, usually by season's end or preparing for the new season that's soon to follow. And there's always this talk about who's the face of the NBA, who should be the face of the NBA. Now, the way I look at it is, now mind you, I grew up watching the NBA when I became a full-fledged fan during my teenage years. So we're talking about the early 80s, even before I hit teenager stage. And although you had popular players according to achievement, talent, memorable plays, tenure in the league, but more often than not, the players who won was the determining factor on who should be viewed as the face of the league. So, as we know, consensus wise in the 80s, the faces of the league was said to be Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. But it wasn't because of catchy names or, you know, unique style of play, ultimately because they won. That's the main attribute that both players shared. Larry Bird, Rookie of the Year, his first season in the NBA, led his team to a 32 game improvement from 28 wins to like 60 wins. Magic Johnson, as a rookie, he helped lead the Lakers to their first championship of that decade. But it's predicated on them winning, not popularity. The winning produced the popularity. The winning produced the willingness to view them as the leading figures of the NBA. But it was always predicated on winning. Same can be said, of course, for Michael Jordan. When he led the Bulls to 6 championships during that decade, where he became the preeminent figure, not just of basketball, but really of all sports. And then in the 2000s, you had Kobe and Shaq and Kobe. But it was predicated on them winning and winning for long periods of time. So we're at a point now, we're at a stage of the NBA where I believe this decade could be very prosperous. And as we have entered or entering the fourth season of this decade, we have not had a repeat champion. We've had the Toronto Raptors win the championship. I'm mainly focusing on teams that weren't expected to win, but they wound up winning. The Milwaukee Bucks won the championship. The Golden State Warriors won the championship. And this year, the Denver Nuggets won the championship. So what I'm trying to say is, because of multiple teams winning the title, the way I react to it as a fan is, it's not so much about who should be the face of the league. Because that's something that is a level of stature that should not be manufactured anyway. It should be earned on the court. It should be predetermined, or anything that's contrived or superficial, because it won't last, it won't stick. So I like where we at in the league, in that it should be more about teams than about, well, we going to build the league around one player. Because quiet as it's kept, they did not approach Michael Jordan's career in that way, in that fashion. Michael Jordan was the top endorser in sports, but the NBA didn't like hinge all their hopes on Jordan because Jordan always wanted to prove that he deserved to be on the same level as Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. You see what I'm saying? So we have so much young talent in this league. We have so many great young superstars. We have a prime superstar. We have the best center in basketball who won his first professional title in the NBA. But what we should do, instead of focusing on who should be the face of the NBA, the team that wins the championship should be celebrated during the offseason leading into that new campaign. That's how the NBA historically recognized their champions prior to the super team era. That's how they did it. So, by default, more often than not, the best team often features the best player. You see, even when Michael Jordan was clear cut, pound for pound, game for game, he was showing that he was the best talent in basketball. It wasn't until he won his first championship where he was officially recognized as the game's best player. And even when he was the so-called top dog, they kept on shining the spotlight on the up-and-coming talent, on the established talent in the league beyond Michael Jordan. When the Shaquille O'Neal's into the league, the David Robinsons, the Penny Hardaways, the Allen Iversons, the Grant Hills, the Jason Kidds, and we knew about the Kevin Johnson, the Lafayette Levers, the Dominique Wilkins, the Patrick Ewings. Everybody got their shine. It wasn't about, oh man, we just got to build on one player. We got to concentrate on one player. We have to just talk about one player every single day. It wasn't about that. So even though Michael Jordan was the best, everybody else got their shine. Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. Everybody who was elected to represent Team USA on the original Dream Team in 1992, everybody on that team, you had a deep knowledge about. You knew they deserved to be on that team. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is the NBA needs to get back to basics in a lot of ways. Too much GOAT talk, too much comparison of eras, which era has the best talent, all this jazz. Because the careers of those past players, they are part of history. They've been completed. It's etched in stone. So why do we feel the need to try to tear down their contribution to the game? So, like I said, the NBA to me is in a good place. They can correct a lot of things to where let's focus on teams. And then whoever wins, if they prove to be the best player that year, then you celebrate that player, you celebrate that team during the offseason. Oh, it's a simple formula. It's a simple formula. That way, it's multiple faces of the NBA. The NBA features the greatest players in the world. That's what they should promote. The NBA, home of the greatest players in the world in the sport of basketball. That's how they should do it. And that will provide a framework to feature the talents of all these players according to what they're showing on the court. So it's a very simple principle. And like I said, the face of the NBA should be more about the teams anyway right now. I think that's where we need to get to. I think that's what the landscape is calling for. So I just want to throw that out there. This is JB right here. Until next time, BTB, behind the bench.